Welcome to Therapy Unlocked, where we discuss all things therapy from an unlocked perspective. I'm Emily Huffman, and I'm here with Katrina.
Hello, Katrina Mondragon, licensed professional counselor. All right, so like I said, I am a professional, but not your professional, so nothing we're going to talk about today should be taken as medical, legal, or otherwise advice. This podcast is purely for education and amusement. That is it. That's the disclaimer.
Education, amusement, and because I would like to be famous. So please like, subscribe, follow, engage, hate on us, join the conversation, find us on YouTube, find us on Instagram, find us anywhere where you listen to podcasts, because I love a creeper and I love a hater and I love a lover. So if you like the podcast, if you dislike the podcast, I'd like to hear from you. All right. So I don't know if you remember, but we were yapping on the phone like last week or so. And you made the statement that I absolutely loved. Feelings aren't facts. And so I really wanted to talk today about feelings aren't facts, but they are data. So,
Absolutely.
I thought feelings, that they're not always an accurate reflection of reality, but they can tell us about so many things: unmet needs, past wounds, boundaries crossed, et cetera, et cetera.
Valid. Feelings are always valid, I think.
Yeah, that's a big one too. I think a lot of people struggle with that, with the idea that feelings are valid, even if they aren't based in reality.
Would you like my story about snakes? I happen to be wearing snakes, but I have a story about snakes and feelings.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's a short story. Dude walks into an office and there's a snake in his office. He experiences fear. This is a feeling. The fear gives him that fight or fight or freeze or fawn, and he flees. He runs away from the snake, and he does not know if that snake is a threat to his life. And that is an actual threat. Like a snake could be poisonous, could be deadly, right? So that fear is both valid, fear is fitting the facts, fear is functional in that way. He runs away and possibly lives another day. So here's the thing, though. They take care of the snake, guy goes back to work, and then the very next day he comes into work, and before he even opens the door to his office, he experiences what he would describe as the same level of fear, only this time he doesn't know if there's a snake on the other side of that door. And this is where that anxiety, because it's now a perceived threat, he doesn't know, not an actual threat.
Right.
That's where that feeling doesn't fit the facts, and he has to take control of what he can, which is to open that door. He opens the door, fear turns to relief because he sees no snake, and the only way he could know that is to open the door, taking into control what he can, which is the me, myself, and I of it.
Yeah.
And that's where that feeling is valid. Like he had every right to feel apprehensive, anxiety, like he had reason to be fearful.
Our anxiety is like a smoke alarm, just because the fire may or may not be present, the smoke is still present. It's going to go off if there's toast, it's going to go off if there's fire, but the smoke, the trigger for why we have the anxiety, is still there and it's still valid. I think that what is the difficulty is to validate emotions without letting them make the decisions for us, like on an individual perspective.
I think acknowledging that they exist is a big first step in that. A lot of people don't acknowledge that I am feeling XYZ, whatever that may be.
Right. Yeah. I love a feelings wheel. I put a feelings wheel on the wall in my teenage son's bedroom, and he doesn't care so much for my feelings wheel. But I told him, when you memorize it, I'll take it down. When you know all of the feelings on the feelings wheel, I'll take the feelings wheel down. When it's implanted in your memory, implanted in your brain, because I am a 36-year-old.
Have you seen that website, feelingswheel.com?
I have not.
Feelingswheel.com. It's an actual website. It's totally free. And now it rotates if you're on a desktop. If you're on the phone, I don't think it rotates, but you have an option of 2 different color schemes. So pick your preference. And I have no affiliation, but they have some sort of like Venmo, because they are totally free. so you can
Yeah,
contribute to them. And yeah, they're an awesome resource. And I'll put the link in the description.
absolutely. Absolutely. No, a feelings wheel is amazing. Identifying, um, identifying what your feelings are. What category do these fall into? It kind of works that way. It is like filing
Right?
for me.
Identify it, then file it.
Yeah. Like there are times when I think I am angry. Oh, I think I'm so mad. I think I'm so mad. And then I walk it back and I realize, no, I'm actually terrified. I'm concerned. I'm nervous. Something is scaring me and I think that I'm really angry about it and I need that identifier. So like you said, identifying, what feeling do you have? And then where does this come from? Because they're not always accurate. Sometimes it's just, it's a red herring, I think. When you start to feel something and your brain assigns meaning to it that is not where it's really coming from. It's like you're giving yourself a red herring on how to resolve a problem. like,
I like that you said brain, because the brain, in my opinion, can lie. Like, I don't believe everything that I think. I even have that bumper sticker that says, "Don't believe everything you think."
oh, I like that. Don't believe everything you think. There is a TikTok trend right now with one of the songs that I loved in the early 2020s. And it is essentially that same thing. Your brain is lying to you. I want to say it was like a Monsters and Men song. But they describe a scenario and they say, I'm a terrible mother and my kids don't like me. And then it's, uh, you're telling stories to yourself. Your brain is lying to you. You are lying to yourself right now. And I think people don't want to believe they're capable of lying to themselves
Stories is a
anymore.
good way to put it, because stories are things that are just that. They're stories. They're not necessarily reality. And if you get into neurology, the posterior cingulate cortex located in our brain is where our self narrative is. And that's where like daydreaming happens, our default network mode is. And so, like, I forget what my point was because you started doing something.
I was like, oh, that was fire. Because I'm sorry for distracting you. You just dropped all the big words. I was like, what? Look at my super smart
Do
sister.
I need to define any of them? I didn't mean to use big words.
Uh, Define them. Yeah, I mean, let's walk it back a little bit there. So what you were explaining is our process for telling ourselves stories,
Yes, we have a
essentially.
self narrative, and there is
Okay,
a spot in the brain for that. And it's
interesting.
the posterior cingulate cortex, or PCC.
Okay,
And that's just something that is in the brain, and that's neurons that are firing together or wiring together. And if you think of it in terms of stories, the stories that we tell ourselves day in and day out get burned into our brain. So if I'm walking through life saying to myself, I'm not doing enough, well, guess what? I'm going to feel constantly inept, inadequate, not doing enough, feeling. And that might contribute to my behavior, my other thoughts, my other feelings, and that would suck.
it's is it manifesting? Is it a positive self dialogue? Why are these things successful? Would you say that and the thought occurred to me as we were discussing it, but this imagination station that you just described, this area where we're coming up with our personal narrative, where we're coming up with our stories, is that the same area that is being tickled or being massaged in the cases of like propaganda or indoctrination?
I'm not sure,
In
but it
other.
is definitely like daydreaming, memory, like processing, social judgments. So maybe, yes.
Yeah, I would think a little bit. I mean, if it's going to affect your social judgment, then it would be probably one of the areas that one would get into. That is so interesting that they've been able to narrow down a specific area of the brain that is activated when someone's telling themselves stories. You know, that's
They break it
science.
down even more, and I think it's related. Oh, and I don't want to get this wrong because I'm not a neurologist, but I want to say it's related to the, and I'm reading this in my head, that's why my eyes are closed right now, the temporal medial cingulate, nope, the temporal mediate prefrontal cortex. I'm missing my words because I'm not remembering. But there's
Right.
another area of the brain that's involved in the storytelling. So they do break down the PCC even further.
So are they just watching, like, are they just watching the brain while people are speaking? Or I
There's
wonder, how
lots
do
of different ways to study the brain. Some is postmortem, some is through fMRI brain scans. And right now, or maybe within the last 5 years, I'd say they've been doing fMRI brain scans on the imagination. So you mentioned Imagination Station. Well, they are doing fMRI brain scans on, can we imagine something and then our bodies respond in a way the thing is like happening now, about to happen, or just happened. And my understanding is that for the most part, if we think it, we can feel like it is. Not always, but it can be possible.
Thank you for joining Therapy Unlocked today as we discussed how feelings are not facts, but they can be data. We look forward to continuing this conversation with you next week. Please come back and join us. Therapy Unlocked is available on all streaming platforms, wherever you may listen to podcasts. We're also on YouTube and Instagram. We hope that you'll like, follow, subscribe, and join the conversation. Once again, we're Therapy Unlocked, and we're here to unlock the mind one conversation at a time. See you next week.